Select Portfolio Servicing is a mortgage servicing company located in Utah with operations in Jacksonville, Florida as well. Ironically, their website boasts that they were founded as Fairbanks Capital in 1989. That's ironic because Fairbanks Capital settled FTC and HUD charges against the fact that they engaged in illegal practices when servicing subprime loans. Those defendants will pay over $40 million for consumer refunds. Well, that happened in 2003. In 2004, the company started using the name Select Portfolio Servicing exclusively. Select Portfolio Servicing is alleged to be owned by Credit Suisse and has ties with all the other too-big-to-fail banks. Currently, Select Portfolio Services, or SPS, is engaged in a massive scheme against American people whereby they are collecting money to which they are not entitled. We've all heard about how the documents that prove ownership of our homes have been lost, or at least a great percentage of them. So SPS handles this issue by fraudulently designing documents to confuse the homeowner, the authorities, and even our judicial system. Because companies like SPS were engaging in such fraud against consumers, in 2013, the California Homeowners Bill of Rights was passed. At this very moment, SPS continues to violate every single provision of this act. For example, the bill places restriction on dual-track foreclosure. Mortgage services are restricted. They are restricted from advancing the foreclosure process if the homeowner is working on securing a loan modification. When a homeowner completes an application for a loan modification, the foreclosure process is essentially paused until the complete application has been fully reviewed. Now, thousands of homeowners across California report getting notification from their, quote, trustee, end quote, that their property has been placed in foreclosure. This is while they are actively working with SPS representatives to maintain a modification. Very often, SPS claims that they have lost the documents, or they never received documents, or documents are inadequate. In most, if not all of these cases, SPS is lying. Also, many times a homeowner have reported that SPS advised them that in order to qualify for a modification, they would have to be delinquent on their loans, so they need to fall behind on their payments. In short, SPS does a dance with the homeowner in which the homeowner continues to abide by SPS's stringent requirements in getting loan documents in on time, while SPS takes no accountability for their role in the process. Why? Well, the quick answer is that they do not want to modify your loan. A foreclosure will be much more valuable. The second item on the Homeowners Bill of Rights, well, it's also known as Assembly Bill 278/Senate Bill 900. It specifically states that homeowners are guaranteed a single point of contact as they navigate through the system and try to keep their homes. A person or team at the bank who knows the facts of the case, has the paperwork, and can get them a decision about their application for a loan modification. This is absolutely not happening with SPS. I personally have evidence in my possession on my mortgage alone with many other homeowners across the state who have never had a sincere single point of contact. Does this mean that SPS doesn't pretend to provide this? Of course not. When they send you correspondence, it includes the name of a person that you will never speak to or probably has never heard of you or your mortgage. The third item is that lenders that record and file multiple unverified documents will be subject to a civil penalty of up to $7,500 per loan in an action brought by a civil prosecutor. Lenders who are in violation are also subject to enforcement by licensing agencies, including the Department of Business Oversight, the Bureau of Real Estate. SPS has filed thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of fraudulent documents with the various recorders' offices throughout California. I have in my possession many of them. each of which would be reviewed in a separate video, in order to help others identify these fraudulent documents. Further, be sure to see my video on the Department of Business Oversight, which appears to be a sham of an organization run by a person by the name of Jan Lynn Owen, who is complicit in the mortgage foreclosure crisis. Many of these mortgages that SPS services are former Washington Mutual or JP Morgan Chase mortgages. Jan Lynn Owen was an executive with both companies at the time when mortgages were transferred via a short vacation at the FDIC, and the paperwork was all lost. I'm not sure she's the best person to oversee complaints against the servicer collecting on behalf of these companies. The California Homeowners Bill of Rights is not the only law that SPS is breaking. That list is too long for this video. However, the common manner in which they deal with their consumer is to continually harass them with computer-generated documents. For example, anytime one makes an inquiry of any kind regarding their mortgage, SPS generates a letter for each inquiry. There are many days that I personally receive 5 of these from SPS. These letters state that the homeowner will receive a response within 30 days. The homeowner never receives any response, unless of course there is, and this is an unusual piece of data, but unless there is a piece of data that is useful to select portfolio servicing. Once you make it clear to SPS that you are onto them and intend to fight against their fraudulent attempt to steal your home, they send payoff statements at the rate of approximately once a month. One can only guess that this is some sort of an intimidation tactic. Another tactic SPS uses is to offer a trial modification. It offers a 3-month trial modification, which then promises to lead to a formal modification. However, they fail to offer any details on what that will be. Many homeowners report despite fulfilling the trial, they do not receive any type of modification and are often even foreclosed upon. SPS does not instill any confidence to any homeowner that paying their mortgage to them directly will lead to ultimate home ownership. For example, I have requests in the form of a qualified written request, which is legalese for something they simply are required to answer by law, and they have yet to comply with my requests. They were all sent by certified mail. They continually, instead, cite the documents that I have proven to be fraudulent. It takes a little work, but I have traced all of the documents that SPS say give them standing to foreclose on my property. First of all, SPS committed fraud in filing these documents with the Los Angeles County Recorder's Office. Secondly, even if these documents were legitimate, the information contained within them offers no assistance in connecting my home to select portfolio servicing. In my individual case, they state that my loan is theirs by way of Deutsche Bank WAMU Pass-Through Account Series AR8. I contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission and received a copy of the certificate that contains the pooling and service agreement. Now, under the law, there are specific dates in which the closing of my mortgage would have to match that of this pooling and service agreement. They do not. Also, the text of this 242-page document is supposed to contain a reference to my property here in Southern California, and it does not. In fact, it contains 0 mortgages in California at all. Now, you probably heard a lot about this mortgage-backed securities. As I mentioned, the one they are claiming covers my mortgage is a 248-page document. This document was created for the investors in this $3,029,599,417.91 pooling agreement. Sorry, that was a mouthful. But they wanted to share in the profits that all these mortgages across many states made. Unfortunately for these investors, my mortgage is not in that document. There have been many lawsuits against SPS and or their affiliates from the people who invested money in these certificates. Now, we haven't gotten to the famous too big to fail JP Morgan Chase yet. Their fingerprints are all over this mess. For whatever reason, many of the documents that were prepared and subsequently fraudulently filed were prepared in a single branch office in Monroe, Louisiana, or another branch office in Florida, but not the big corporate offices that they pretend to be. Now, the people signing off, we now know, were either robo-signers or minimum wage employees who were paid to sign either their own names or other people's names with various titles such as vice president or sometimes even notary of multiple companies, including JP Morgan Chase. There will be a complete additional video on JP Morgan Chase and the preparation of these documents. So, who owns my mortgage? Well, you cannot imagine the stress of not knowing who has the right or not to take your home away from you. I know for certain it is not SPS. I know for certain it is not Deutsche Bank. I would think there's a possibility that JP Morgan Chase owns my mortgage. However, their consistent fraudulent activity and unwillingness to put their own name on as my servicer leads me to believe they do not and would rather SPS, who has no problem breaking the law, take accountability. After all, SPS has done this before under the name of Fairbanks Capital and gotten away with it. The problem with this is that it leaves the homeowner with what we call a clouded title. No one wants to purchase a home with a clouded title. It means that somebody else can come in and claim your home after you moved in and settled. Lastly, it is very unfortunate that the agencies that we believe in and we hear are working on our behalf to weed out this fraud and the deceptive practices are really just distractions. Some folks think that this is a big bad conspiracy where people are being bought off and paid. I don't. I believe that SPS has made it their specialty to make things confusing as possible to the public and even to our sophisticated judicial system, which is, too unable with resources to really look into these fraudulent activities. I will continue myself to lodge claims with every organization possible. I have already done so with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they have twice closed out my complaint by simply receiving a go-ahead from Select Portfolio Servicing. The good news is you're allowed to waste your time filing as many complaints as you want with the CFPB. So they can just call SPS and get their opinion, and they close your complaints. And then they probably are reported as successful resolution. Shame on you, Elizabeth Warren, who is so proud of your CFPB. So stay tuned to this channel where myself and other victims of Select Portfolio Servicing will be reporting very specific details from the state and others about the continued pattern of fraud and negligence of our authorities in failing to do anything about it. Thank you.